He was a billionaire CEO without a voice, until he met the waitress. WHO would change everything. Welcome to Behind the Door, where we bring you stories that touch the heart and change perspectives. Before we dive into this story, comment below and tell us which city you're watching from. And once the story ends, don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10. Enjoy this amazing tale, only on Behind the Door. Let's get started. Alexander Sterling sat in the back of his limousine, watching the city lights blur past his tinted windows. At 42 years old, he had everything money could buy. 3 mansions, a private jet, a yacht docked in Monaco, and a tech empire worth $7 billion. Yet as he stared at his reflection in the glass, he saw a man who hadn't smiled genuinely in years. The accident had happened 5 years ago. A skiing trip in the Alps that went horribly wrong. Alexander survived, but his vocal cords were severely damaged. After multiple surgeries and countless specialists, the verdict was final. He could only speak in raspy whispers that caused him pain. Most days, he chose silence. The world knew him as the silent CEO. His emails were legendary, his text messages precise, but his voice had become a ghost. Board meetings were conducted through his assistant. Press conferences were handled by spokespeople. Even his family had grown accustomed to communicating through notes and messages. Tonight, Alexander had dismissed his driver early. He wanted to be alone, truly alone. He found himself in a part of the city he'd never visited, where the buildings were older and the streets less polished. Rain began to fall, and he ducked into the first lit doorway he saw. It was a small diner called Rosie's, the kind of place that served coffee in thick ceramic mugs and had vinyl booths that had seen better decades. The bell above the door chimed as he entered, and several customers looked up briefly before returning to their meals. That's when he saw her. She was wiping down a table near the window, her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. There was something about the way she moved, with purpose and grace despite the obvious fatigue in her shoulders. When she turned and smiled at him, it was the kind of smile that reached her eyes, genuine and warm. "Sit anywhere you'd like," she called out cheerfully. Alexander chose a booth in the corner, away from the other customers. The waitress approached with a menu and that same warm smile. "Welcome to Rosie's. I'm Maya. Can I start you off with some coffee?" He nodded, and she noticed his silence but didn't push. When she returned with the coffee, she set it down gently and waited, her pen poised over her notepad but her eyes patient. Alexander pulled out his phone and typed, "Just coffee is fine, thank you." Maya read the message and nodded without a flicker of judgment or curiosity. "One coffee it is. Let me know if you change your mind about food. The pie tonight is apple, and it's pretty spectacular." Over the next hour, Alexander sat in that booth, watching Maya work. She joked with the cook, remembered customers' names, and treated everyone with the same dignity whether they ordered a full meal or just a cup of coffee. There was a kindness in her that seemed to radiate outward, touching everything around her. He found himself returning the next night. And the night after that. By the 4th visit, Maya sat down across from him during her break. "You know, you're my most mysterious regular. Most people who come in here, I know their life story by the 2nd visit." Alexander smiled slightly and typed on his phone, "Some stories are harder to tell than others." "That's fair," Maya said, sipping her own coffee. "But you know what I've learned working here? Sometimes the best stories are the ones told without words. The way someone treats others, the kindness in their eyes, the patience they show. That tells me more than words ever could." Something shifted in Alexander's chest. For the first time in years, he felt seen. Not as the billionaire CEO, not as the disabled executive, but simply as a person. Over the following weeks, their friendship deepened. Maya learned to read Alexander's expressions, his gestures. He learned about her life as a single mother working 2 jobs to support her 8-year-old daughter, Emma. About her dreams of opening her own bakery someday. About how she found joy in small moments despite the struggles. One evening, Maya arrived at work with red eyes. Alexander immediately typed, "What's wrong?" She tried to smile it away. "It's nothing. Just one of those days." He persisted, and finally, she told him. Emma needed surgery for a heart condition, and the insurance wouldn't cover it all. Maya had been saving for years, but she was still $50,000 short. The doctors said they couldn't wait much longer. Alexander felt something crack open inside him. That night, he left the diner and made a phone call. By morning, an anonymous donation had been made to the hospital, covering Emma's surgery and all related expenses. Maya came to work 2 days later, tears streaming down her face. She found Alexander in his usual booth and slid in across from him. Someone paid for Emma's surgery. Everything. The hospital said it was an anonymous donor. She wiped her eyes. I don't know who would do something so incredible for us. But I wanted to tell you because you're the one person who's made me believe in goodness again. Alexander's hands trembled as he typed, "You deserve it. Emma deserves it. You've taught me that true wealth isn't measured in money." That's when Maya looked at him, really looked at him, and understanding dawned in her eyes. "It was you." He nodded slowly. "But I don't understand. How? Who are you really?" Alexander pulled out his business card and slid it across the table. Maya's eyes widened as she read it. "You're Alexander Sterling, the tech billionaire, but you come here every night in regular clothes, sitting in my section, and you never said anything." He typed, "Because here, I wasn't the CEO or the man without a voice. I was just someone enjoying your company. You never treated me like I was broken or pitied me for my silence. You saw me as a person. That's something money can't buy." Maya reached across the table and took his hand. "You're not broken, Alexander. You never were. You have a voice that speaks louder than any words. It speaks through your actions, your kindness, your heart." 6 months later, Alexander stood in the crowd at Rosie's diner as Maya cut the ribbon on her new bakery next door. He'd invested in her dream, not as charity, but as a partnership. The bakery's specialty, silent Sunday brunches, where customers were encouraged to communicate without words.